Hello and welcome to Art Club. We are going to have all kinds of snowy fun and I cannot wait. So, our theme here is going to be a form of art, a very special form of art called mosaics. So first and foremost, I want you to think to yourself, is this a word I've ever heard before? Do I know what a mosaic is? Well, guess what? Even if you don't, we're going to figure out what that is right now. Let's cover it together so we all have a really good understanding of what I mean when I'm using the word mosaic. So first and foremost, what are mosaics? Well, it's simply an art form, a very special art form that uses small objects to create a larger picture. So that might seem a little confusing right now, right? But I bet as soon as you see this, you'll understand what I mean. So if we look at it, you can see there's a whole bunch of tiny little pieces, right? But when we group them together by color, we can actually create a bigger picture out of it, kind of like what you're seeing here with our fish. So I almost like to think of mosaics almost kind of like puzzles, but you're the creator of the puzzle and you're the person solving the puzzle simultaneously. All right, so that's what a mosaic is. How are they made then? Well, you can probably tell that they're made from small pieces. We take those small pieces, it might be stones or tiles or glass, and we put them together tightly with other ones of the same color, and we very carefully place them to create geometric designs or pictures of whatever it is we're hoping to create. So we could end up with something kind of like this, right? And even within our heart, with those geometric shapes, we even see more than just a heart and geometric shapes. We even see a flower within the heart too, right? So you can really have fun with this. This one would be an example of using things like glass and stone in order to make mosaic. The next question then is, well, what are mosaics made out of? And I like to say that the number one ingredient in making a mosaic, what they're made out of, patience. I know that seems kind of like a silly answer, but oh my goodness, is it ever true? There is no mosaic that was ever made in speedy time. They just take time and patience. So it's good at building that skill for us, for sure. But as far as like the materials it takes to make them, it might be things like glass or stones or tiles or found objects. There's all kinds of things. For this project that we're going to be starting on today, we're going to be using paper though, and you're going to be making the mosaic pieces. We often, when we're making a mosaic, we kind of base how we're putting it together based on like color and shape, especially if we're trying to make an actual picture, not just like geometric designs and things like that, okay? So then we're going to take those pieces and we're going to put them on top of something. Okay, and in our case, once again, we're going to use paper and we're going to put it on top of paper. But sometimes it might be like glass on top of like a wooden board. And then we'll use something called an adhesive. Okay, you've probably heard, or maybe you haven't, but maybe you've heard of adhesive bandage before? Like a Band-Aid? Have you ever heard of Band-Aid? Well, Band-Aid is actually a brand name for an adhesive bandage. Okay? An adhesive just simply means that it's going to help it stick. It's going to stick. Like think of a Band-Aid, how a Band-Aid sticks on your skin, right? So it's going to be like that. So when we're using an adhesive in mosaics, depending on the materials, it might be things like mortar, it might be cement, but we're going to be putting paper on top of paper. So what might be a good adhesive for us to use? Glue. We're going to be using glue for this project. So you'll need glue for next time. Here is an example of what our mosaics might end up looking like after our next class together. We're making these cute little snowmen. So as you're looking at all these tiny little pieces in our snowman, I want you to think about what color of paper are we going to need to cut the most tiny pieces of. Looking over here, I'm kind of thinking white. Would you agree? Because snowman's mostly made out of snow. and snow is white. So I think we're going to need to cut a lot of white. As far as which other colors you're going to use, well, it's going to depend on what colors you all have. Feel free, if you don't have the colors that you all wanted in your kits, if you've got other colors at home, feel free to use those too. So what colors you have, and then what colors you want. Maybe you're going to have earmuffs or a hat. Maybe it's going to have a scarf and arms and a nose and eyes, and think about all the things you want on your snowman. Think about what colors you want those to be, and then we'll want to cut some of those colors as well. All right. So, as you can tell, we are going to be making snowmen. In fact, we've even got a very famous snowman popping in to say hello, checking out what we're doing in the window there, in case you didn't notice. But we're going to get started by cutting out, we're going to cut white paper first, okay, since that's the one that we're going to use the most of. Now, if you've ever like cleaned your room before or had to wash the dishes, do you think it would be really nice if you could get it done in like half the time? Wouldn't that be a really cool trick? Yeah, I would want that trick. I do want that trick. So I'm going to show you that trick here in our art world for making all of these mosaic pieces. You can see I've got a little dish that I'm gathering them in. You might put yours into a sandwich bag or a Tupperware container or whatever you've got, but find something to put your mosaic pieces in. But you can imagine if I were to cut every single one of these one piece at a time, that's going to take forever. So here's my magic trick for you that's going to cut the time in half. Literally going to cut the time in half. Instead of cutting one piece of mosaic at a time, and we're cutting these all about, between the size of like a nickel and a quarter, something like that. Little different shapes and sizes. Instead of just cutting one piece at a time like this, go ahead and take your paper, fold it in half. Now, whenever I cut once, da 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 da. Whoa, well, one flew away, but I've got two pieces of paper. Let's see, did it just work once or is this going to work again? Let's try it out. Once again, all different shapes and sizes. Yes, there we go. So now we're really rocking. We're going to get that work done in half the amount of time. Remember, all kinds of different fun shapes and sizes here, and we're going to collect them all and put them into our dish. So I would say we want to cut up a majority of our white piece of paper, okay? Probably half, at least, maybe more, of our white piece of paper. But then once you've got that all cut up and ready to go, start thinking about what other colors of paper you might want for your snowman. So maybe I want to add some brown. Now, I don't need this much brown, so we're not going to waste our time and we're not going to waste our supplies by cutting up all this much paper. I'm going to just cut a strip of it, and I'm going to use that trick again where I fold it in half. Might as well get twice as much out of the same amount of work, right? And once again, we'll just start cutting some shapes. Of course, when it makes that turn, we'll have to cut that so it's not folded when we cut these pieces here. But check that out. Once I've got it folded in half, I can really get cruising with these. And that is going to be a lot of colorful paper for tomorrow. This is probably even more than I'm going to need for the brown. But of course, you can tell maybe I want some black for my top hat, or some blue for a hat, or green for some mittens. It is going to be up to you, but your job between right now and next class is going to be to cut up a whole array of all these beautiful paper mosaic pieces. Next class, we're going to need a colorful background piece of paper, whatever color you want. We'll need a pencil. We'll need glue to glue our paper to our paper. And you'll also want to have your scissors nearby because we might need to give some of these pieces a trim. I'll explain more on that next time. We'll see you then.